Helena's Voyage by Harbridge. In a town by the ocean, in a house on a hill under a large pine tree, lived a pretty little girl named Helena. Helena loved to run and jump and play with her friends, but she was often sick and had to spend many long days at home in bed. During these times, her mother, who loved her very much, would care for her and read to her and help her with her homework. Helena tried to cooperate, but there were days when she was so fed up that she would throw down her books, push away her medicine, and even refuse to talk. For deep inside, Helena had dreams of adventure, just like any other little girl. Very early one morning, Helena woke to the sound of excited voices. She leaped from her bed and ran to the window. Down at the waterfront, sailors were bustling about, yelling to each other as their ship prepared to depart. "Oh, how I wish I could join them," Helena said longingly to a bird on her windowsill, for she had never been to sea, never even set foot on a ship. "One day I will sail on a boat," she promised the bird. "One day I will feel the sea spray on my face and breathe in the salty ocean air." That evening, Helena felt very odd. Her mother took her temperature, fed her hot soup, and put her to bed. And as soon as her head hit the pillow, the little girl fell fast asleep. During the night, a moonbeam passed through the branches of the pine tree outside her window and lit a spot on her bedroom floor. "Wake up," said a gentle voice. Helena opened her eyes and began to tremble. Before her stood an angel. "Don't be afraid, Helena," he said. "I have come to take you on a voyage." The gentle figure took her hand, and she was flooded with a glorious peace. "What is your name?" asked Helena. The angel's eyes sparkled. "It is..." And he told her a name that sounded like nothing she'd ever heard, that made her think of splendid things, like a minnow looking through ice at the moon, or the whispered secrets of doves. "And where are we going?" she said, smiling, for she knew now that the angel with the marvelous name was the messenger of God. "Far over the waves," he said, and handed her a small silk purse. No sooner had she accepted it than they were in a tiny boat, leaving her harbor and sailing out into open water. Helena was not sure how long they sailed, whether it was minutes or hours or days. At times, mighty ocean waves towered over them and tossed their little craft this way and that. At one point, a dense fog swallowed them up, and Helena pulled anxiously on the angel's robe. "How can you know the way?" she asked. The angel with the marvelous name pointed to the sky. In front of them, the light of a star blazed through the mist. Finally, they came into a turquoise sea where the water was warm and calm. The sun shone splendidly, and along the shore she saw feathery palm trees and figs and dates and ancient olive groves. The air was sweet and fragrant, and on a far coast 3 cities glowed as if blessed of God. "Our ports of call," said the angel. When they reached the first port, she beheld an ancient city graced by magnificent universities and hospitals and synagogues, its streets filled with people engaged in scholarly chatter. The angel with the marvelous name sailed their little boat between the scores of mighty trading ships and landed on a massive wooden dock. They were met by a kindly man with a long beard and black hat, followed by a boy reverently carrying a large yellowed scroll. The man gave them his blessing and graciously invited them to stay in his city. The angel thanked him, but told him that they could not. The man presented Helena with a small, glimmering gold Star of David and shook her hand goodbye. Helena thanked him and put the precious gift inside her silk purse. They sailed back out to sea and along the coast, and after a time came to a second harbor. The ships they passed were large, bringing in metal and wood and fuel. This beautiful old city was full of workshops and factories, and she saw a church steeple on every corner. Industrious crowds bustled everywhere. A gondola paddled out to meet them, a pewter censer burning incense hanging from its ornate prow. A sweet-faced man with a bald head called his blessing up to them and invited them to partake of the comforts of his city. The angel thanked him, but told him that they had another visit to make. The man presented Helena with a small, shining gold cross and bid them farewell. Helena put his gift into the little silk bag, too. In the last port, the cobblestone city streets were lined with busy shops, markets, and cafes, but there were also libraries and meeting halls, and the slender minarets of splendid mosques rose gracefully into the sky. They sailed between small boats full of noisy pilgrims who waved to them warmly. They were met by a gentle man and a boy carrying an intricately patterned rug. The man gave them his blessing and offered them food and shelter. The angel likewise thanked him, but told him their journey had been long and they had to be heading back. On the shore, the call to prayer sounded throughout the city. The man gave Helena a glittering gold crescent moon and waved to them as they sailed away. Then the man and boy hurried off to pray. The girl placed the little moon into the pouch with her other two gifts. Back at sea, Helena addressed the angel. "We have visited 3 beautiful cities and met 3 good men," she said. "How can I know which of their beliefs is true?" "What would these men tell you?" asked the angel with the marvelous name. The little girl paused, unsure, but suddenly these words appeared in her mind: "To love God and to love other people as much as I love myself." "Yes," he smiled, "your words are like finest gold, the very essence of the Torah and the Gospels and the Koran." The blessed messenger's face grew clouded, and he steered their little boat once more out into the turquoise sea. "We have one more stop," he said. They sailed farther up the coast through treacherous waters and landed on a rocky shore. The angel moored their boat to a splintered tree stump, and together they made their way up a hill, past the burnt remains of a barn, an overturned ox cart, and a neglected garden, to a miserable house with a collapsed roof. Inside, in a dark corner, a ragged boy of her own age hid behind an overturned table. He was very thin, and open sores covered his body. The sight of him filled Helena with enormous sadness. "Where are his parents?" she cried. "Both were killed in wars," the angel said. "He is starving and very ill." Tears ran down the little girl's cheeks. "Oh, what can we do for him?" she sobbed. The angel bowed his head, and Helena became aware of the silk bag she held. She rushed to the boy and thrust it into his hands. "Take this," she said. "Trade it for what you need." No sooner had she uttered these words than she heard a noise behind her, and 3 women entered the room: a Jew, a Christian, and a Muslim. One knelt and washed the blood and dirt from his body. Another consulted a book and cared for his wounds. And the third fed him and gave him to drink. Then they embraced him and prayed and sang a sweet song that soothed his spirit. Before Helena's eyes, the boy grew happy and healthy. She said goodbye, but as she was about to follow the angel out the door, Helena turned back. "What is your name?" she said. The boy handed her back the silk purse. "Abraham," he said with a loving smile. The angel and Helena walked back to their ship. There was a faraway look on the little girl's face. "You're thinking about your mother, aren't you?" he said. "Yes," she answered, and a tear ran down her cheek. They stepped into their boat and soon were crossing the ocean, and Helena saw that the angel followed the same star on their way home. She smiled and felt the cool sea spray on her face and breathed in the salty ocean air. Before she knew it, they were back in her room. Helena climbed into her bed, tired but at peace. She closed her eyes, and the angel with the marvelous name kissed her cheek. And when she looked up to say goodbye, all she could see was the moonbeam on her bedroom floor. The silk purse was still in her hand. She sat up, opened it, and found that instead of 3 objects, there was only one. The star, the cross, and the moon had become a single gleaming gold disc. On its face, she read these simple words: "One God, many voices, one people." Helena turned over the beautiful disc, and her eyes grew wide with wonder. For on its other side she saw her mother and her father, her brother and her friends, her grandparents, her teachers, the sailors, the 3 good men, the boys, the 3 kind women, and Abraham, and every other person in this world, and all the people who had ever lived, and all those who ever would, singing together in 1,000 languages in glorious harmony. And outside her window, the angel's star twinkled and shone its blessing down on the water that flowed through her little harbor out to the mighty ocean and to every corner of the earth.